I was born in the field, just my mom and I. I always said I wanted to be close to my mom. So I was born, just she and I were out there. And she had no one to help her. And, you know, you clip the umbilical cord. She had nothing to clip it with. So she had to chew it. And I've watched my children being born. Oh, I'd probably look at that kid and say, you know what? I'm sorry, buddy. But no, I wouldn't have said that. But anyway, where I grew up, you saw some of those pictures. It's much worse than what you saw. Really. When I was born, we lived on a farm in this little place called Gravel Hill, Tennessee. And between then and when I left home at 16, we lived in 17 different places. You know, my father was part Cherokee Indian, and he never went to school, so he didn't know how to read and write. He worked very, very hard. He was, in my opinion, one of the wisest men I've ever met in my life. He had deep convictions, and he passed that on to us. He told us the things, his philosophy of life and what was important in his opinion. And I have lived by that all of my life so far. But it was amazing to grow up in a situation like that. So I feel like I am one of the luckiest humans on earth. My mother, she had gone to school. She finished the 8th grade. And so for her, education was extremely important. So she made us promise that we would graduate high school, which is a big deal to her. And I tell this joke many times. I say, well, you know, when I was going to school, I had to quit in the 5th grade because my mom and dad was in the 6th. And they didn't want me to disgrace the family by passing them. So I've had people come to me afterwards and say, is that really true? They made you quit? No, it's a joke. But it was very important to my mother that we get an education. I'm the first one in the family that ever graduated from college. And the way I got to go to college was I had to join the Army, and I had to stay in the Army for 6.5 years to pay them back for sending me to college. But you saw the picture there of all those computers, because when I came out, I had a degree in computer science, and I went to work in the aerospace industry. Now, when I was 14 years old, I'm backing up a little bit. When I was 14, I really, really had a difficult time. Because I used to go to my mother and try to get my mother to tell me that she loved me. My mother never told me that she loved me. And the reason, I believe, was when they grew up, you had to be tough. You had to set an example for your kids, you know? Because times were very difficult. But, you know, for me, my whole life, I loved everybody. You know, I wanted to love everybody. And I wanted people to love me. But when I was a kid, a teenager, I had no friends. The clothes that I wore were clothes that someone else had thrown away. I had one pair of new shoes in my whole childhood. And I had to wear shoes that other people had thrown away. So if you see me limping around, there's 2 reasons. One is that my toes are grown under like this, because I never had shoes. Well, now the doctors say, well, we can break your toes. I said, that's okay. I'll just keep them the way they are. You know? I'll hobble around. That's okay. And the second thing is 3 weeks ago, I had stem cells injected in my knee. So I can have ability to use my knee without having a replacement. So that's one of the beauties of stem cells. So when I was 14, I set my goals. And this is the whole thing I want to stress for you. Is if you want to accomplish anything in life, you must have an idea of what it is that you want to do. You don't have to know how you're going to do it. You need to know what you want to do. So I'll tell you, for a 14-year-old kid that didn't even have 2 nickels to rub together, you'll love this. My first goal was You know, like kids grow up, they want to be a fireman, they want to be a doctor, they want to be whatever. I want to be a multimillionaire. Now, we never had any money. You know, and so this was a big goal of mine. If I got to be a multimillionaire, I'd have a lot of money. And I used to go ask my mother. Of course, you have to understand, this is Tennessee. This is how they talk in Tennessee. Mama, why are we so poor? Not poor, poor. Why are we so poor? She said, we ain't poor. We just broke. She said, poor is a state of mind. If you think you're poor, you'll be poor all your life.
Yeah.
Being broke is temporary. So I thought, what's the difference? So when I was 16, I had lived in that temporary status of being broke for all those years. I figured it's time for me to leave. So I left home. And I went away to find fame and fortune. Boy, was I in for a shock. I wound up in a little place called Memphis, Tennessee. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a job. So for 3 months, I slept outside the walls of this restaurant, between the restaurant and the dumpster. So that's where I slept. And every day I'd go look for work. Now, the problem was, I was 16 years old. I had finished high school, and I was only 110 pounds. So it was a challenge to go find a job. I did finally find one, and I went in the Army and all this other stuff. I didn't finish all my goals to tell you, but my first goal was I was going to be a multimillionaire by the time I was 35. I picked that date because the banker's son was 35, and I figured, you know, if he's a multimillionaire, or I figured he was a multimillionaire. He didn't have nothing probably, but I just thought, okay. That was the first thing. And the second thing was I was going to have food. I rest my case on that one. You can see I took care of that one pretty well. Then I was going to have nice clothes to wear. When you never had your own clothes, and it was always somebody else's given to you, it was a little bit important to me to be able to get clothes. And then I was going to have a house to live in, a nice house. And then I was going to be able to travel around the world. And I used to tell these kids that I went to school with, you know, that I'm going to travel all over the world. And they didn't believe me. They said, you're not going anywhere. So I think our passport, we have 84 countries we've been in now. So, and we have 7 houses. We can't live in all of them at the same time, though. We haven't figured that one out. So we finally decided to start renting some of them out because we weren't ever going to get there. So we just said, okay, we'll rent them. Have some pretty nice cars and those kind of things. But the most important thing that I think I've gotten out of life is I have been able to help a lot of people. You know, we've done some neat things. Is Teresa still here? No? With Teresa Gregory, and we've gone to Africa, and in Uganda, we helped build out a school and a nursery. We have drilled 6 water wells because 4,000 kids a month were dying of parasites because of the water. And we drilled 6 wells in conjunction with Charity Water. And so to save 4,000 kids a month from dying from parasites. And if you look at the places that you would get water, it really would break your heart. So it's been a lot of fun. And our opportunity here is we want you to be able to make money. We hope to get you to believe in other people and want to help other people. Because, you know, when you leave, you take nothing with you. You know? And what you leave is a legacy. And my dad always said that you're only passing through. And when you leave, you're going to be accountable. He wasn't a religious man, but he would say, because the Indians really believe this, you know, that you're going to be accountable for what you did here. and for how you treated the earth and how you treated the people on earth. That was very important to him. So I will tell you that you have a great opportunity. You can also make money, and you can help other people. So I think it's extremely important that you take advantage of this opportunity, that you make money, and at the same time, always remember that there are people that are less fortunate than you. And you see some of these kids that we have done these things for, you know, they won't remember who we are, but they'll remember what happened for as long as they live. And that's what's important. Wendy said one minor point that I ought to point out is that, you know, I told you I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 35. When I got out of the military, I worked in the aerospace industry, and one of the things that I did, I worked with an organization called NASA, N-A-S-A, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and they had a requirement for a launch processing system to launch a space shuttle. Anybody know about the space shuttle? Okay. Well, I worked on that for 2.5 years. I sold that contract, and I was competing with Honeywell, GE, IBM, Lockheed, several others, and they're all billion-dollar corporations. And I was working with a little company that their best year in sales was the previous year, $2 million. And when I go to these bidders conferences and have all these people there, you know, they look at me like, what are you doing here? I said, I'm here to sell this system. I said, how can you sell this system? You watch me. I said, if you're nice to me, I might hire you. And I did. I hired IBM. You have no idea how that feels to go back to IBM and say, you know, I'd be willing to pay you guys about $10 million to write some software for me. Are you interested? Well, I guess they went home and cried in their soup a few times, but my commission check, my first commission check, was $6 million. $6 million. I was 32. So I made it before I was 35. But you know what I'm trying to say to you is I knew I was going to sell that business. I knew I was going to win that contract. You know why? Because with all my heart, I believed that I was going to be directed. I had divine guidance. I was going to win that contract, and I did. So don't ever, ever give up on what your beliefs are. Put faith in what you know that you want to do, not exactly how it's going to happen, but you must have a belief of something you want to accomplish. That's what's important. So, and one of the greatest accomplishments I think in my life is I got to meet this beautiful lady. She's been the love of my life for 23 years. Yeah. That's what it is, 23, right? I'm going to stick to it. Yes. Very few people are that fortunate. And I have been really, really blessed to meet her. And I love her with all my heart. And we have gone all over the world, and we both have the same thing in common. We want to help other people. And that's why we're here. You know, like Scott said, we could have gone off to the island somewhere and sip pina coladas or whatever. It's too boring. That's not us. We want to come out here because I love to see these beautiful smiles. Really. So I guess I've said enough, but what I'd like to do now is introduce a gentleman to you that I got a 45-page description of who he is and what he is, and I looked all over. I think I lost that paper, you know, on purpose, because I said, I can't get up there and tell them all that. But anyway, I'm delighted to introduce to you a gentleman who is with Jeunesse. He is our Vice President of Sales and Marketing Worldwide. He has an interesting background. He has written books. He has done some really, really marvelous things in coaching people, in helping develop companies, and I'm expecting great things out of him here at Jeunesse. So I'd like to bring up Mr. and Ms. Matheson's little boy, Boyd. So if you'll come on up, Boyd. Boyd Matheson.
Thank you. How's everybody doing this afternoon? It is wonderful to be with you today, and this is